Hey, what's up guys, Bryce here, and we're back at it again for another video. And as you can see, we are finally driving a GT3 car. It has been a very long time since I've even driven a GT3 car. After NARL, obviously did the Radicals for a bit and did the LMP2 cars, but we're finally back in a GT3 car and a new GT3 car. This is the BMW M4. I had this car for a little bit, but I never actually fully driven it. So this is just a little testing session. Really my first time ever on Road Atlanta in a very long time. Obviously I know this track, but it's been a really long time since I've driven it. So this is pretty much me preparing for races, me preparing for this week's race. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see where I stand. I'm really excited for it, honestly. Just excited to be competing in a league again, seeing the same people over and over again is fun, and just the joy of competing is really great. This car is a really good car. I will say that. I used to not prefer it or not really like it, just because of well, first off, it's not as aggressive looking. The sound isn't as good as, say, a Lamborghini. You know, it doesn't look as racy as a Lamborghini, but once you do drive this thing and once you kind of get a feel for it, I find this thing a lot of fun. It sounds decent. I've come to like it more. When you hear the turbo on the inside, it does sound pretty cool, and it rotates a lot better than I expected. I didn't really expect it to rotate initially as good as it did. I knew the top speed of this thing is really good, and just a straight line speed in general, because I did a few races in the Lamborghini GT3 at Red Bull Ring, and I remember I was in third and there was two BMWs in front of me, and just lap after lap I would get really close to them on the corners, but then on the straights there was just no chance. They would pull away. So even in the slipstream with low downforce, they would pull away a lot, and that just shows you the power of this car. And the rotation is really good. Under braking it is very stable. You can see we can just rotate and flick the car into this corner. Let's do a little onboard lap here. As most of you already know, this track is amazing. It's really fun. I love this track. I love the flow of it. Whoever invented this thing really knows how to make racetracks. Breaking down into turn 1 at the 100 meter board, past the 100 meter board, taking an inside line, stay tight towards the middle of the track. You don't really want to wash out wide. Braking once the curb starts, flicking the car in once the curb ends actually. Take curb on the inside. It's all about being smooth through here, taking just the right line through here. Easy on the curbs because it can unsettle the car, but you can use some curb if you know how to tackle these curbs, and straight lining the exit using all the runoff on the right hand side. A little bit of a straight and then downhill for this right-hander. Track flattens out a little bit of camber on the inside. Get on the gas as soon as you possibly can, braking in a straight line on the left curb and getting a nice exit for this long straight. It's all about the exit. For this straight here, you can lose and gain a lot of time through here, and here we have a really good passing opportunity and just a good opportunity to slipstream and save fuel potentially in a race. Going down to the chicane, it's a really tricky chicane section. What I typically like to do is I like to brake diagonally towards the curb to use more of that curb on the outside, flick the car in, use a lot of curb on the inside and the outside, up this crest and down the hill. Pit stop on the right hand side. There is pits on the left, but we do not use those pits in this race. Flat out right hander, and that is lap of Road Atlanta. Really crazy track, but a whole lot of fun. And you can see I'm just experimenting here. This is really what I'm doing is I'm doing a few laps where I'm really just pushing the car, but it's not just about going as fast as you can. It's really about strategy for the race and racecraft, and you might see it in this video or possibly not, but sometimes what I'll do, or all the time what I'll do, is I'll usually do about maybe a full fuel tank of just me kind of pushing the car, really just kind of doing a race stint, and then after that I will spend a lot of time actually driving on the inside of the track and then driving on the outside of the track. And the reason being is because I want to be able to learn this track inside out. I want to be able to know every single inch of this track, so that if I'm in a situation where I'm pushed out wide or if I'm going side by side, I know exactly where that limit of grip is and just where the limit is. So sometimes you'll see me just driving as if there's a car side by side, because sometimes when there is a car side by side, most drivers don't know how to drive when they're not on the racing line. It's one thing to be able to drive on the racing line, but if you can be quick when you're not on the racing line, then when it comes to passing people, you're gonna be really strong because you can pass someone and drive fast, not on the racing line. So I'll usually do that. I'll also do fuel saving throughout the lap, see how much fuel I can save without losing too much pace. Really want to stay within that 3/10 margin, maybe 4, but anything above half a second, you're losing too much time trying to save fuel. And you can see a little bit of a snap of oversteer there, just too much curb on the inside. And again there, you really want to be careful with the curbs here. Obviously, it's not the best. And the Lamborghini, I remember when I first drove it, Jesus Christ, the curbs are horrible on that car. It was doable obviously, but any curb, it would really upset the car, and it was a handful to try to tackle on the curbs. But I am faster with the BMW, so maybe you'll see me in this car, maybe you won't. Can't give the competition too much of an edge. No, but I will be using this car for the race, and it is a great car to drive. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing for the future races, but right now there's about 50 drivers on the grid, so I think that was the same about last year. But again, I'm not really focused too much on the other drivers. You really need to just be focused on your driving, and when it comes down to race day, the lap you get on qualifying just reflects the amount of work and the amount of practice that you put in throughout the week. So, my mindset is, if I'm 5th on the grid, if I'm 10th on the grid, wherever I am, that's just where I am. That is the practice that I put in, that is the pace that I've got, that is the consistency that I was able to do, and pretty much was I able to execute. And if I can't execute, then that means I didn't practice enough. I didn't practice enough to be able to execute when I needed to. And then from there, you just go into the race, wherever you started. So obviously you want to win the race, and obviously you want to do as good as you can. But for me, I just drive the car. That's kind of the mindset that I have, because the more you think about other drivers around you, the results, that's kind of when you can easily get caught up and you don't execute. So it's really, for me, just about driving the car, and that's really what I want to do. I just want to drive the car on race day and just have a good time, really. And we'll see what happens. I was runner-up last season, so this season realistically I'm looking to clinch the championship, but anything can happen. Maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. We'll definitely see. But again, as I said, just looking to drive the car, just looking to have fun this season, looking to see some new guys on track, and hopefully have some clean battles, and not get any penalties that will put me at the back of the grid, as that happened basically twice. Which again, I didn't really understand that. Well, I did understand it, but I pretty much started at the back of the grid twice. Once in Hungary, because after the first incident, I was in the back of the grid, and once in... Whoa, and you can see that we have a little spin here. A little spin into the wall. Just as we're watching this live, I did spin there. And yeah, again, another thing that I also do, which is really important, is I don't really ever tow the car back to the pits. Not only for the realism, because I love realism. I love these simulators being as realistic as possible, because you can't really call it a game. It's a simulator. You can fast travel back to the pits if that's what you want to call it. You can tow back to the pits, but there is something about driving back to the pits that makes it more realistic. Another thing is, this pit entry is pretty crazy, so you just want to be able to kind of maximize that pit entry and just go in there as fast as you can. You can gain and lose a hell of a lot of time in the pits, and pit stops is one thing I'm definitely looking to improve on, as I don't have a clutch, and I know you can go a lot faster coming out of the pit with the clutch. I love the color on this car, by the way. I didn't make the livery, but just the color itself I think looks really, really good on the BMW. Just something with it works. Yes, so as you can see here, during these laps, I wasn't driving on the normal racing line for these couple of laps. I was driving more towards the inside of the track, and that's just kind of to mimic that there's a car side by side, so that when there is a car side by side, you know exactly where to put the car. Obviously, when there's not actually a car side by side, it's a little bit difficult to kind of gauge where that car is, but you can kind of imagine that there's a car on the left hand side right now. You can kind of mimic going for an overtake going into this corner here, seeing how far you can brake. You can see we're leaving room on that inside, and as if there was a car side by side, just leaving just that right amount of room, but not leaving him too much room. It also depends on who you're racing against. That's really, really key. if I'm racing against the top 3 guys, I'm gonna be a lot more aggressive and just not leaving them as much room as if I was per se passing a back marker or just battling in a position that's not really worth leaving so much room. You can see F1 drivers do this all the time. You know, when it's a championship position, obviously you're going to be very aggressive, but when it's kind of mint pack, there's no reason to kind of go balls to the wall for that. And yeah, staying on the inside here, I think we go back into the pits for whatever reason. Oh, I think I was just going into the pits just to test how fast I could exactly go in the pits. I will have a hot lap guide out on Wednesday. Wednesday will be the hot lap guide day. I'm trying to make that the guide day since Thursday is going to be the races themselves. So going to the pits again, I'll probably just do a few more laps, kind of do a little bit of a commentary and just explain what I'm doing, and then that's going to be a wrap for this video. I'm doing a lot of practicing this week, so I didn't have too much time to sort of put together videos, but if you guys like these style of videos, be sure to let me know. It's kind of like a freestyle commentary in a way, just because not really planning anything, just kind of, you know, speaking off the top here. But going through the S section, it's tricky. This curb on the inside is very tricky as well. But yeah, all about consistency. That's really all it's about. I need to unbind my blinkers because they actually banned them, I think mid-season. I think they were already not legal, but I didn't know. So they are not legal, which I personally don't like, just because I do like the fact that you can get in someone's head by flashing at them. You definitely can. It is annoying, but that's kind of the point. The point is to be annoying so that you get in their head so they make a mistake. I never really do it to let them know, because I know some people think that you know, you flash to let the other car know that you want to pass them and to move over. I don't flash to tell someone to move over. It's more of just like, you know, I'm behind you and I'm applying pressure pretty much. So they did ban those. You can do it in officials, obviously. You can do that in officials, which I do sometimes. I stopped doing it as often. But definitely, if I was in some sort of championship position, I definitely would be flashing a lot. And you can see the pros doing it too sometimes, but it's mainly used for for other classes and back markers to let them know that you are an actual faster car. The car you're driving is physically faster, but they did ban those, and you know, I don't care about that really too much, but I tested them out because I need to rebind that button to a traction control button, so you can toggle traction control. So say if you do spin around, you can easily spin the car right back around with having to do an 86-point turn in the middle of the racetrack. So this is my fastest lap here, jumping on board. Definitely not the fastest I can do, but this was just the fastest I was able to do in this session. Taking curb on this inside is really critical. You want to go through there as fast as you can, and really just obviously as fast as you can throughout this whole track. Being smooth is really key. Knowing what curbs to use and what curbs not to use. Getting on the gas as soon as you can. And I think this section up here is the most important part of the track because it has the longest straight. I usually don't downshift to first gear in this car. I do it sometimes. It's a habit just to get that extra rotation. Too used to playing F1 2020 and all those other games where you can really get a lot of rotation from using the lower gears. But this straight is really important. Any corner that leads onto a very long straight is a chance to gain a lot of time, and fast corners are a chance to gain a lot of time too. Breaking down for the chicane, it's really tricky to gauge when you're going to get it off track because there's no sausage curb. It's literally just flat and grass, so you can really abuse it. And that is a lap. It is very quick around here. It's only 1 minute 17, basically. But yeah, that is going to pretty much be it for me, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. More of a chill commentary, almost losing the rear once more. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a hot lap guide on Wednesday, and you'll most likely see race highlights over the weekend, possibly, because I do work over the weekend, but during the week I'm sim racing. So now, if some of you are asking why don't I stream this, I don't stream it because I don't particularly like to stream league races when they're more serious. I used to do that, but it does put an extra pressure on you to perform in front of people, especially live audiences, and that doesn't really bother me too much. But it's just the fact that you have a lot of things going around in the background. You got to do with the stream, the chat, and all that type of stuff, and I just preferably like to focus on racing. But iRacing officials, I definitely will be streaming that. But there's only a week in between races, so once Road Atlanta is over, I'm already onto Sebring. In fact, probably the night of, I'm already gonna be driving Sebring onto the next race. I'm pretty good at that. Like, once that race is over, once I cross the finish line, I'm already thinking about the next race. I'm not really thinking too much about this race. Obviously gonna, you know, the next day analyze and see what I could have done better, but I'm focusing on that next race. I never really dwell on any past races ever, and if you do get a good result, it's just keep going forward. You know, I don't really get too excited for that. Just keep moving forward, because it is a long season, and a lot more things that are more important than just a singular race win. But that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed. Almost losing the rear again, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.